Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Michelle, and today I'm going to show you how I created a page creating a whimsical fairy. I guess we can call her that. So I'm going to work in my little A5 journal. I've taken a page out, and then I'm going to fussy cut this girl from Marlene's cut and paste block. This cut and paste book. It's a book with a bunch of beautiful collage images that Marlene had created herself, and I wanted to use this girl along with some of the butterflies that's also in this book. So I quickly fussy cut all of them. Well, it wasn't quick, it's quick on video after the editing, but yeah, just going through and selecting the images that I wanted. She fits perfectly on this page. I was toying around with whether I should do her on an A4 page, but I decided the A5 was actually perfect. And then I'm just going through and selecting the butterflies that I wanted. And I've also used a second collage book from Marlene just to grab a couple more butterflies. Don't worry, I don't make you watch all of it. I did do that off camera. So now I'm quickly grabbing out some tracing paper. You can see I've played with stencil paste on there, and a couple of tiny butterflies in my stash of Marlene's stamps. And I'm going to stamp out those butterflies just a couple of times on the tracing paper. Then over the top, I did do a bigger one as well, but I didn't end up using that one. This is from I think it's called Butterfly Wings. It's a very old stamp set. Okay, so I'm giving that a quick dry, because over the top of this stamped images, I'm going to go in with some sparkly sticker paper, and I'm just going to stick that over the top to make these butterflies a little bit more magical and sparkly. And who doesn't love a little bit of sparkle? I just burnished them down with my bone folder, and then I quickly trimmed one out just to see if it's going to work. Gosh, it took a long time to fussy cut these tiny little butterflies. True Michelle style, I did not go around the antennas, I just cut them off. This one still has them on, I think, but the others, they don't have those. So I felt like it didn't stand out enough, and so just at the back of it, I went in with my Posca paint pen and I just colored those wings in and set them aside to dry. And I felt that made them pop off the page a little bit more, because obviously I've got quite a few butterflies in the dress, and I did want these to stand out once I put them down. I also did the big one because at this stage I thought maybe I'll use it, but I didn't. So the idea for this page came, I was paging through a Vogue magazine. I love the Vogue magazine. If there's one, and I'm not like fashion inclined at all, but for some or other reason, I love the Vogue magazine. So often when I can find them secondhand, I will buy pretty much all of them at the secondhand shop, and just they keep me busy for ages and ages. And I still think it's better to page through a magazine than be on the phone. So yeah, the idea I had was from a Vogue magazine. I saw a model, it was an ad of some sort, and her dress was actually made of butterflies, and I thought, oh, let me try that. It didn't quite work the way that I wanted it to work, and I think it's because the butterflies that I had were too big for the dress. I think if I had tiny little butterflies, it would have worked much better. But anyway, it's fine. I do like the page. It worked out well in the end. I went in with fuchsia, royal, and lavender to do my first base layer. So just spots of 3 and blending it out. and then I'm going over the top with some ballet and peony, and I'm just doing a little bit of reductive stenciling. So I'm smudging the paint on with my finger, and then I place my mandala stencil over the top and wipe it away with a wet wipe. That I did with ballet and peony. I don't know if I said that, but there we go. I'm saying it again. And then just a little bit of mark making with that peony paint, and also a little bit of white, because I thought that the deep purple that's called royal was maybe just a little bit too dark. Then I had some paint left over, which I just watered down with my brush, and I did some splatters. Okay, I gave it a dry, and now I'm ready to glue my images down. So I didn't do too much to the background because I knew that this girl's dress was going to be rather busy. So I thought, let me work on this first, and then if I feel like the background needs a little bit more, I would come back and do more. So when I'm gluing down the butterflies, I'm going down with the big ones first, and I'm just putting glue on their bodies. So I'm not gluing down the wings because I like the dimension that it has, and I also want to still be able to tuck things underneath those wings. I gave her one on her shoulder and one butterfly in her hand as well. And I'm just playing around to make sure I get them all squashed in there. And as you can see, it's looking a bit like a hot mess at the moment. It was at this stage where I thought, oh no, this is a disaster. But you know what? Then I decided, well, whether it's a disaster or not, I'm just going to glue all these butterflies down and see how we can make it work. So it's quite busy, and you guys know that I love busy pages, but I felt like it was maybe I maybe went a little bit too far. But anyway, it's fine in the end. I'm going in and just extending her hair, adding a little bit of color to her hair. I wanted a bit more of a deeper brown in her hair. Her hair has quite a reddish tint, and I wanted to make it a little bit more brown. And then I'm adding some black and white lines as well, and just making it look like she belongs on the page a little bit more instead of being just stuck down. And I think those little black and white fine lines that I did over the top really helped with that. Okay, now I'm going to start outlining all of these butterflies. Well, I didn't do all of them, but some of them. And some of them I'm doing in white, and some of them I'm doing in black. I've recently started outlining my elements with white, and I really, really like the pop of color that brings to the page, or that, not color, but brightness. So I decided to use a mix of black and white on this page to see how that would work. And I think it worked out okay in the end. So now you can start seeing those butterflies are getting a little bit more defined. They're not all just one big explosion of color on that dress, but you can actually start seeing the shapes of the butterflies that are a little bit more defined. So this bit took a little bit of faffing, and it does take quite a bit of time to go around the edges, but I do think it's worth it to spend the time to just go around and define those edges. And also it kind of trains my hand to be able to draw a butterfly maybe one day. Maybe if I outline enough butterflies, I'd be able to do a nice butterfly one day. Anyway, it's a very mindful process where you can just really get lost in the process of it all and just enjoy it. Okay, once I'm done, the antennas that I did cut were sticking up too much, so I'm just quickly gluing them down, and then I'm going to go in with some punk paint, which is Marlene's neon purple, and I'm going to do a little bit of a shadow. just using a very thin brush, and I'm brushing it on and smushing it out with my finger. And I think I maybe shouldn't have done the purple in between the butterflies, because now it looks like it's not a dress anymore, it's just the background. But that's also okay. Maybe these butterflies have lifted her off the floor already, and now you can see the background behind them. So I think it still makes a little bit of sense if you live in my brain. Okay, now I'm going in with my Stabilo All pencil, and again, just here and there, I'm putting some darkness around the edges and watering it out just to create a realistic looking shadow. So normally when I do this, I try to blend the shadow out a little bit to the edges and make it a little bit darker right against the image, just so it looks a little bit more natural. And I think this is, again, one of those steps that's worth doing. It's worth taking your time with it and just thinking about where the shadows would be naturally, even though this picture is not natural at all. But you still want your art to make sense. Even though it's whimsical and magical and all of that, you still want things to make sense, so your eyes don't get confused when they look at the page. They shouldn't be wondering what's going on. Yeah, so just a little bit around the head as well, and just faffing really until I'm happy with it. Then I wanted to add a little bit more brightness to the background, so I'm just using Marlene's Funky Paint, which is the pink neon, and smudging it on with my finger, and you'll see just how bright that background is now. It's quite it just gives a pop, like a filter that you'd put over your photo. And then I also went in with a little bit of yellow because I thought it needed just a little extra. And then I'm going to start working on my quote. So in that butterfly set, there's a quote that says butterfly kisses, but I just wanted to use the word butterfly. And then I knew in Marlene's quote book there was a quote that says, with brave wings she flies, but I wanted to make it with butterfly wings she flies. So I'm kind of Frankensteining a quote there. And eventually I found the quote, and I'm just going to chop it up into little bits and glue them down. The butterfly was a little bit too big, so I actually went around and followed the shape of the word to trim this out. So this is again just another example that if you can't find what you are looking for in your stash, you can definitely mix and match things and cut things up and change them to suit your project. I'm going to finish off with a little bit of washi tape around the edges. I'm using this red and white polka dot one, and I'll just outline the quote as well. And that's it for this page today. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you've done something like this before, or if you're going to try this. I'd love to hear from you. If you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and subscribe, and I will chat to you again soon.